When Indiana Jones and the Great Circle got revealed, I instantly thought, who would even want to play an Indiana Jones game? Nobody needs this slop. But I had to pull myself back because I never watched a movie. Fast forward to last year, and after finally watching the first one, I see why this franchise has so many fans. And then looking up the history of how many Indiana Jones games have released over the years, I had a clearer picture on why this game was even a thing. But even after I began playing it, I was surprised at how good this game actually is. In my opinion, if you were hoping for an Indiana Jones game that gives off a movie experience, then this is exactly what you're looking for.
Adios, Lita.
It's hard to pinpoint what's the best part of this game, as I feel like this game is pretty well rounded. The gameplay for Indiana Jones may put some people off at first due to its first person camera, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel the same. Initially when I saw gameplay for this, I was wondering why the devs made the decision to go first person. It didn't make much sense. Add on the fact that during gameplay you will switch from first to third for a brief time when performing certain actions like climbing, and it's definitely kinda weird. Nonetheless, once I started playing through the levels, I got used to the first person view. Honestly, being in first person made it feel like you were Indiana Jones, if that makes any sense. As you experience most of the game, you'll constantly switch from cutscene back to first person, making it seem like you are really in the moment, and this is felt in the gameplay. Whether you're in a hand-to-hand combat, a gunfight, or swinging your whip, it all feels sort of personal, like this is your experience. Technically, this would still be the same case if this was in third person, but I don't think its presence would be as strong if that was how the game was made. Now I gotta make one thing very clear. This game is not intended to be a typical run and gun style of adventure game. If you went into this thinking that you were going to be able to run through all the levels like in Uncharted or Tomb Raider, you'd be sorely mistaken. As a matter of fact, this game is centered all around stealth. In almost every situation, the smarter option is to use stealth instead of fighting or shooting enemies. Usually stealth is always available as there's some hidden path or ledge that you can access in order to evade enemy detection. However, the option to take out enemies stealthily is always there, as you can use weapons and take out guards and henchmen that way. It's honestly all about the type of player you are, how you want to play the game, and what difficulty you choose to play on. For my playthrough, I played on normal, and on that, shooting the enemies was not the best option. So many times I was just like, you know what? Let me shoot everyone. They all gotta go, and ended up getting shredded. Thankfully, the stealth is actually pretty satisfying, as the AI for the enemies is pretty good, meaning you have to take your time and look at the enemies' walking patterns before striking. Just crouching and trying to hit them from any direction won't work. Regardless of what approach you take, you're gonna find yourself in hand-to-hand combat. This is one area that I thought got a little old because you're doing it so much, but even still, it's pretty fun. Once you get the attention of a soldier, you can press the right and left bumpers, which are your fists. As you punch, your stamina bar in the middle of the screen will drain until you run out and you'll stop punching. This seems pretty simple, because it is, but I thought where it gets cool is how you can change things up by using your whip or nearby objects. The majority of the time you have your whip on you, and you can use that to literally whip your enemies, knock their weapon out of their hand, or pull them closer to you. On the other hand, you can use whatever melee weapon you're holding to bash the enemy. Once you master these mechanics, where it gets really fun is how fast you're able to do everything all at once. So 1 second you're punching, then you're using the whip, then maybe you throw a frying pan across the room. But all of this is performed with ease and without any jank, making the combat a lot smoother than I expected it to be. Earlier I mentioned that it's not in your best interest to shoot the enemies, not only because it's dangerous as entire swarms of soldiers gang up on you, but because you don't carry that much ammo to begin with. For example, if you're inside a camp trying to steal something and you choose to shoot your gun, what this is going to do is maybe or maybe not kill the enemy while attracting at least 10 guards to your location. The movement in this game is slow when not in melee combat, so trying to run away isn't an option either. Your best bet is to be selective when you shoot soldiers. Picking and choosing when and where to shoot will keep you from dying over and over. Thankfully, the gunplay is pretty good. It feels satisfying to shoot enemies, but what I didn't like at all was that headshots didn't register as automatic kills. Of course, that doesn't have to be the case, but in a game like this where it's a lot of one-on-one encounters, I expect that if I shoot this guy in the face, he should be dead. It shouldn't take a couple more bullets to put him down. Otherwise, the gunplay was entertaining. There's plenty of guns you'll find on the ground or on enemies, including pistols, machine guns, rifles, and shotguns. Because it takes place in 1937, I didn't expect the weapons to be overly sophisticated, and they definitely weren't, which is perfectly fine with me. Now, what would an Indiana Jones game be without the puzzles, right? The puzzles in this were actually really fun. Not all of them were that in depth, but as someone who isn't the biggest fan of puzzles, I like that. Similar to the recently released Silent Hill 2 remake, you have the ability to turn down the difficulty of the puzzles, which I thought was a welcome addition. Actually, solving the puzzles wasn't too hard as the game used Indiana's camera as a way to introduce clues to the player to help get us through each one. It may seem underrated, but seeing certain parts rotate or come to life during and after solving these puzzles added a small layer of realism that I didn't know I needed. It's like exactly what you would expect to see inside of a cave. From finding parts to playing actual games, all of these puzzles offer something new, even if they're kind of similar to others in small ways. On a smaller scale, there's chests with crates that have codes that need to be found in order to gain valuable items. Even though these are technically puzzles, even these are fun and serve as a nice change up to the larger, more complex ones. Regardless, for a franchise revolving around a treasure hunter, this game nailed the treasure hunting aspect, which the puzzles are a huge part of. To my surprise, there's more in this game outside of the main story. When not doing the main missions, you have the option to do side quests and other discoverables that help occupy your time. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't do any of the other stuff other than the side quests, which turned out to be better than I was expecting. A lot of the time, these quests involved other characters from within that specific level, requesting you to help solve a problem that may or may not connect to the overall plot. This seems like a bunch of BS, but completing these are actually worth it. You earn experience points and visit areas you wouldn't otherwise, keeping things fresh. If there is a problem in this area, it would be how it's laid out. It could have been me, but I thought just finding where each quest was within the menu was confusing at first. Like understanding what all the other stuff is outside the main story was just weird. Maybe it's the colors or the font, but just the overall presentation of the mission menu looks a bit off. Once you understand it, you'll know where to go, but it still needs tweaked a bit. Without a doubt, one of my favorite things about this gameplay is the entire health and stamina meter mechanic. No, this is nothing new, as tons of games have had health and stamina meters, but for some reason in this game it was really cool. To refill your health and stamina, you had to find food across each level, which you would grab and add to your inventory. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something so satisfying about knocking out guards and then stealing their food. It's like adding salt on the wound. But just like other games that have come before it, you can upgrade your meters and add more bars to them by acquiring medicine bottles and trading them in at a clinic that can be found in the hub area of each stage. These bottles are scattered all throughout the level, lying in easy to miss places, giving you ample opportunity to collect them all. Just a fair warning, make sure you look hard for the clinics, because I never found them until late in the game, so I went through most of my playthrough without upgrading my health. Speaking of upgrades, you earn upgrade stars or experience stars or whatever you want to call them for completing side quests and other activities. These can be used to upgrade different aspects of Indy's gameplay. By finding books, these contain the actual upgrades that you can apply. What I liked is how the books contain different upgrades for each aspect of the gameplay, giving you the freedom to upgrade what you want. So for example, one of the books is called Survival, and the upgrades in this improve your damage in hand-to-hand combat. Spending your points on any of these is worthwhile and is a great idea to make your version of Indy more effective over the course of the game. The gameplay for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is surprisingly very fun. The decision to go first person gives more of an intimate experience, and the combination of combat and player choice allows you to craft the Indiana Jones that most reflects you. With you having the option to delay story progression until you're ready, this gameplay can be mastered early on, helping you understand every mechanic. The story has a lot more depth than I was expecting. Like I said earlier, I had only watched one of the Indiana Jones movies, but even seeing that helped me prepare for what I was going to experience in this game. Obviously, you could guess what this is about. Treasure Hunter goes on an adventure looking for treasure, and that's exactly what it is. But what took me by surprise was how well the side characters mesh into the story, while slowly revealing what the real secret behind the Great Circle really was. Without spoilers, you start out at the university after one of your artifacts was stolen. Eventually, you find yourself in different areas exploring caves and solving puzzles, all to acquire certain pieces that would lead you to the Great Circle. Again, I have to emphasize that this story isn't surprising at all. Everything that happens is exactly what you would expect, but that is in regards to purely the plot. The devs went above and beyond in some sections as they crafted some amazing set pieces that help to elevate the story to new heights. All the characters are memorable to some degree and leave a lasting impression, at least for a little bit. Early on, you meet Gina, who serves as your partner and love interest for the majority of the game, and I really enjoyed the dynamic between these two. Their personalities are both the same but different, as you can see in the cutscenes what they prioritize and why they make the choices that they do. It could just be me, but whenever I have a female partner in action games, I always get attached, so it was nice to see it done well in this title. Over the course of the story, these two really gave off vibes from The Mummy. You know how like Brendan Fraser had his love interest? That's kind of how it was portrayed here. Combine them with the other antagonists, and each scene was tense, or at least did a great job of capturing the emotion that was trying to be conveyed at that particular moment. As I've already mentioned, you play through different levels that are separated by locations around the world, but this story transitions from area to area really well. It doesn't just abruptly throw you in a new location, but rather pushes the story to a point where it makes sense for you to leave the area. All of these are vast and diverse, allowing the story to breathe and not condensing all the action to just one singular area inside each location. It doesn't seem that important, but things happening in different places within one giant environment helps to make everything feel less cramped, which I really liked. I thought the pacing of the story was pretty good too, as everything is a slow build up to the end of each stage, which usually contains all the high action stuff. It's like you know what the mission is, but what you experience along the way is similar to climbing up a mountain trying to reach the summit, and once you do hit the top, it's definitely worth the wait. By the time you hit end credits, you'll have gone through a journey that lines up with what you would see in the movies. Starting from the very beginning, the story is slowly unpeeled and ramps up with the utmost urgency. Never for a moment did I feel like it was dragging or it was taking too long to get going. The best way to describe it is that the story feels like you're going through an Indiana Jones movie that was never made. Lastly, I have to mention the graphics for this game. This game has absolutely gorgeous graphics, and it's apparent right from the beginning. I played this game on PC, obviously, but at ultra settings with not everything maxed out, these graphics was looking crispy. The facial animations, structures, and environment look so good. Maybe I should have expected this for a game based off a movie franchise, but it was definitely welcome. Sometimes things might look a bit off at certain angles, but this was very few and far in between. The graphics helped depict the realism needed to tell the story that this game was trying to convey. If everything had looked worse, it would have distracted me so much, but instead, the caves and temples in the game looked incredible, like it was ripped right out of the movie. Compared to the past Indiana Jones games, this game graphically is the best it has ever looked. Overall, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a great game that took me by surprise. For someone who wasn't the biggest fan of the franchise before, I'm enticed to watch all the other movies simply by playing this game. Even if you've never seen a movie, if you're into stealth and treasure hunting, this game is perfect for you. With a bit of fine tuning with the menu and combat, a sequel to this game could easily be a 10 out of 10. So for those reasons, I'm going to give this game an 8.5. This game is one that I feel many overlooked and didn't give a fair chance. Compared to other titles, especially with this being on Game Pass, I think gamers categorize this as more Game Pass fodder, but that is simply not the case. I enjoyed my playthrough and hope that a sequel to this gets made because this game definitely deserves it. What did you think about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? Did you play this, or are you waiting for it to come to PS5? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to watch one of my other reviews right here.